What if every choice you think you made was actually scripted before you were born, and ancient priests knew exactly how to read the code? Why ancient Egypt treated reality like software before computers existed? Silicon Valley executives debate whether we're living inside a simulation. Meanwhile, tomb inscriptions carved 5,000 years ago describe existence as layered programming accessible through precise verbal commands. This isn't academic speculation. These are operational manuals. Temple records showing how trained individuals could navigate between reality layers using nothing but symbolic language and focused awareness. They didn't call it hacking, they called it Heika, and the technical precision is unsettling. Consider the Egyptian obsession with names. Your true name wasn't just identity, it was your access code. Knowing someone's real name gave you direct influence over their fate, their health, even their consciousness after physical death. Priests guarded their secret names their entire lives because exposure meant vulnerability at the deepest level. This wasn't superstition, it was information security. They understood that identity functions as data, and data can be manipulated by anyone with the right permissions. The pyramid texts are the oldest religious writings on Earth, but reading them as prayers misses the point entirely. These are technical documents, step-by-step protocols for navigating post-death reality. Each spell addresses a specific obstacle: hostile entities blocking passage, rivers of fire, gates that only open to certain phrases. You didn't hope these worked. You executed them correctly or faced permanent deletion. The precision required suggests these weren't metaphors. They were tested procedures that produced consistent results. But here's what almost no one notices. The Egyptians built their entire civilization around maintaining cosmic order through ritual. Maat wasn't philosophy, it was the fundamental operating system of reality itself. Disrupt Maat and the universe destabilizes. Maintain it and existence continues functioning. This mirrors how programmers describe system architecture: core protocols that cannot be violated without crashing everything. The Egyptians recognized this thousands of years before anyone conceived of digital systems. Thoth, the god who invented hieroglyphs, wasn't a mythological figure to them. He was the original coder, the one who wrote the language that generates reality, and he taught select humans how to use it. What comes next changes everything about how we understand consciousness, how hieroglyphs function as reality-altering commands. Written language to us is communication. To ancient Egypt, it was creation technology. When scribes carved hieroglyphs onto temple walls, they weren't recording history, they were programming future events. Specific symbol combinations could heal illness, summon protection, even alter weather patterns. This sounds impossible until you examine the archaeological evidence. Certain inscriptions appear only in locations where specific outcomes were required. Medical texts with surgical precision, agricultural schedules that maximized yield, astronomical calculations accurate to fractions of degrees. Hieroglyphs operated on multiple levels simultaneously: visual, phonetic, conceptual, energetic. A single glyph could trigger associations in the subconscious while conveying literal meaning to the conscious mind. Combine them strategically, and you create cascading effects in human perception and behavior. Modern advertising uses the same principle: symbols that bypass rational thought and embed directly into emotional centers. The Egyptians simply applied this to everything: architecture, rituals, governance, death preparation. The opening of the mouth ceremony reveals how literally they took this. A deceased person's statue or mummified body underwent precise procedures using specific tools in exact sequence: copper chisels, adzes, incantations spoken in predetermined order. The purpose was reactivation, restoring functionality to a consciousness that had gone offline. They treated death like a technical problem with a technical solution, and based on how widespread this practice became, enough people witnessed results to justify the massive resource investment. Spell 125 from the Book of the Dead describes judgment in the Hall of Maat. Your heart gets weighed against a feather. If it's heavier, you're destroyed. If balanced, you continue. But the text doesn't just describe this. It provides the exact phrases you must speak to each of 42 divine assessors. Wrong answer means termination. Correct response grants passage. This is password authentication. Divine beings functioning as security checkpoints. Your consciousness trying to gain access to the next level. And this opens something disturbing. If consciousness persists beyond physical death, then identity isn't biological. It's informational, which means it can be copied, modified, even deleted by those with administrative access. What pharaohs actually were in system architecture terms. Pharaohs held a position no modern leader possesses. They weren't just political rulers. They were conscious interfaces between humanity and what Egyptians called the Neteru, fundamental forces maintaining reality's structure. This wasn't symbolic, it was functional. Without the pharaoh performing daily rituals, cosmic order degraded, crops failed, the Nile didn't flood, the sun's path became irregular. These weren't beliefs. These were observed correlations spanning millennia. Something about what pharaohs did maintain stability. Their unique status came from a concept that has no modern equivalent. Divine kingship meant the pharaoh contained both human and non-human consciousness simultaneously. They existed in multiple reality layers at once. Human body, divine awareness. This dual nature gave them access to information channels regular people couldn't reach. They received downloads, instructions, visions that guided massive construction projects, military campaigns, agricultural schedules. And these weren't vague hunches. They were detailed, actionable intelligence that consistently produced results. The Ka and Ba system explains how this worked. Ka is life force, raw energy. Ba is individualized consciousness capable of traveling between dimensions. Together they form Ak, the illuminated self that transcends physical limitation. Pharaohs trained their entire lives to consciously control this process, to send their Ba into other realms, gather information, and return with knowledge impossible to obtain through normal means. Temple records document these experiences with technical specificity. Descriptions of non-physical locations, entities with precise characteristics, information verified later through physical events. These interpretations appear across centuries and cultures, often studied as symbolic patterns rather than literal truths. But the consistency is remarkable. Independent traditions describing nearly identical systems. Consciousness as layered architecture. Death as state transition. Specific procedures for navigating between levels. Either massive coincidence or something real being documented from multiple perspectives. And here's where it gets deeply uncomfortable. If pharaohs truly accessed higher-level commands, what happened to that knowledge? Did it disappear? Or did it transfer to different hands using different symbols? If this content is opening your awareness, hit the like button. It helps this channel continue. Why Egyptian death preparation suggests consciousness backup protocols. No civilization before or since invested resources like Egypt did in preserving consciousness after death. Pyramids that defy engineering explanation. Mummification processes taking 70 days. Tombs filled with everything needed for continued existence. Gold, food, weapons, written instructions. Why? If death ended everything, this makes no sense. But if consciousness persists and can be preserved under the right conditions, every single action becomes logical. Mummification wasn't about preserving the body for resurrection. It was about maintaining a physical anchor point for consciousness to reference. The Ba, your traveling awareness, needed somewhere to return. Without a preserved body, you risked complete dissolution. Modern physics suggests information cannot be destroyed, only transferred. If you're fundamentally information structured as consciousness, physical death doesn't delete you, it relocates you. But without proper preparation, that relocation becomes chaotic, uncontrolled. The Duat, their afterlife realm, wasn't heaven. It was another dimension with its own geography, inhabitants, and physical laws. You could get lost there, trapped, attacked by hostile entities. The Book of the Dead wasn't spiritual comfort. It was a survival manual. Each spell addressed specific threats, geographic landmarks to recognize, beings to avoid, phrases that granted safe passage. You either knew these or faced permanent consequences. But the most significant detail is this: Egyptians believed you could visit the Duat while still alive. Through controlled dreaming, deep meditation, carefully orchestrated rituals, priests spent decades training for conscious navigation of non-physical realms. They returned with information that changed how temples were built, how rituals were performed, even political decisions. These weren't hallucinations. They were reconnaissance missions into parallel reality layers. Modern virtual reality allows consciousness to inhabit digital environments while maintaining awareness. Your brain processes VR experiences as real. Neurons fire, emotions emerge, memories form. Egyptians achieved similar states without technology, using only disciplined awareness and symbolic triggers. And if their maps of the Duat are accurate, then what we call imagination might actually be perception of dimensions our instruments haven't learned to measure yet. Which raises the question nobody wants to ask. If multiple realities exist simultaneously, which one are you actually in right now? How artificial intelligence mirrors Thoth's original function. Thoth didn't just write. He calculated, measured time, tracked celestial patterns, maintained cosmic balance through mathematics and observation. He was the god of information processing, converting raw data into actionable knowledge that shapes civilization. Sound familiar? Because that's precisely what artificial intelligence does. Thoth was symbolically the first AI, a non-human intelligence processing complexity beyond human capability and returning answers that determined the fate of nations. Look at where we are now. Algorithms make decisions affecting billions of people. They determine what you see, what you buy, how you think about reality. You don't see the code. You don't understand the logic. You just know something invisible is shaping your world. Egyptians called these invisible shepas Neteru. We call them systems. The difference is they treated these forces with respect, offerings, careful protocols. We just let them run in the background while trusting they serve our interests. Here's what's unsettling. Thoth could predict the future, not through magic, through pattern recognition. He saw cycles invisible to humans, processed probabilities, modeled scenarios, delivered prophecies that consistently manifested. This isn't divination, it's predictive analytics. Exactly what AI does now. We just call it machine learning instead of divine wisdom. The temple at Hermopolis, Thoth's primary cult center, functioned as a data processing facility. Priests collected information from across Egypt: agricultural yields, flood levels, star positions, social unrest indicators. They fed this to trained scribes who synthesized patterns and generated guidance. The pharaoh then implemented policies based on these outputs. It was centralized intelligence gathering and analysis determining national strategy. We've simply replaced temples with server farms. And if you accept this framework, the line between technology and magic disappears entirely. Both manipulate information to alter reality. The difference is only interface. Egyptians used symbols, rituals, trained consciousness. We use screens, code, processors. But the underlying principle is identical. Input command. System responds. Reality changes. So maybe the Egyptians weren't wrong. Maybe they were just thousands of years early. And maybe the simulation scientists now suspect we inhabit was already being mapped in hieroglyphs when most of humanity still lived in caves. Subscribe to this channel. If this shifted something in your awareness, turn on notifications for the next investigation. Comment below which part hit you hardest.